המקום הזה, מה נורא המקום הזה, מה נורא המקום הזה. אין זה כי אם בית אלוהים וזה שער השמיים. How awesome is this place. It is none other than the home of the Almighty, and this is heaven's gate. How fortunate we are to be able to begin a new day, to begin that day with words of gratitude. On page 61, Modeh ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, shehechezarta bi nishmati b'chemla, rabba emunatecha. I thank you, Majesty, who endures and lives, for returning to me, my soul, with so much compassion, and your faithfulness is so great. Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam, shehechezarta bi nishmati b'chemla, rabba emunatecha. Shehechezarta bi nishmati b'chemla, rabba emunatecha. Anu Modeh ani by Brad Burston. This is what I told myself this morning. Whatever you're doing, stop a second. Take a long breath, deep. Take a breath and revel in it, just to decide that you're alive. Take a breath to give thanks. Ask, who is like unto this unknowable Almighty, who invented life itself and breath, and who created our true shields and swords, the health professionals who are the mightiest, if the most compassionate of angels. Thank you by whatever name, who created and sent us and sustains these heroes, these champions, who run marathons every single day just to do their jobs, which are to perform miracles. Most of all, take that long breath in honor of and in gratitude to the angels themselves, nurses, doctors, emergency medical technicians and ambulance crews, lab techs, orderlies, maintenance and cleaning staff, research scientists and pharmacologists, epidemiologists, social workers, teachers, first responders, chaplains, simple laborers and workers, and for so many others, among them the parents, suddenly at home with their children, running without training, without help, without grandparents, marathons of their own, all in an effort to save countless lives. Modeh ani, if only you could hear me, how grateful I am for your faithfulness. Ma yafe hayom, Shabbat shalom. Ma yafe hayom, Shabbat shalom. Ma yafe hayom,
Shabbat Shalom, Ma Yafe Hayom. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom.
What a good day it is today. Today is Shabbat. Today is a holy day when we can celebrate this world that has been given to us. We dedicate our hands to take care of this world. Al natilat yadayim. We take hold of our hands that have been given to us as a gift. Hands that can do so much good if we put our minds to it. We think about the world created in light. Ayakar chazdacha Elohim, ne'adam etzel knafecha yechasayun, yirviyun mideshen beitecha v'nachal adanecha tashkein. Ki imcha mikor chayim be'orcha nir'e or, v'shol chazdacha liyodecha b'tzidkatcha v'yishrei lev. God, in order to create the world, took a garment of light, wrapping God's self in the folds of that garment, and thereby calling the world into being. And this is what we do as we begin a new day. The light has dawned, and we say, how precious is your loving kindness, O God. We take shelter under your wings. We feast on the abundance found in your house. You give us drink from the river of your delight. For with you is the fountain of life. By your light do we see light. Grant your loving kindness to those who love you, and your righteousness to the upright in heart. This Shabbat is Shabbat PARASHAT Noach, the second Torah reading in our cycle, the second story in the Torah, the story of Noah, the flood, the ark, of Noah seeking shelter under God's protective presence. This story has so many dimensions to it. Little children love to hear the story. And as we get older, we notice many, many, many other layers. One of the layers in this story is how the story leads to the question of how we use our power of speech. This was a gift that was given to us when we were created. Last week, the Torah said, God blew God's own spirit into our mouths and our noses, and we became a living being, a living soul. And the translation into the Aramaic from 2,000 years ago is, we became able to speak. Noah does not speak throughout the whole first part of the story of our Torah reading. And generations have pondered, are his words simply not recorded, or did he really not speak? When he was surrounded by evil in the world, did he speak up, or did he not speak up? And the controversy rages, different interpretations, different ways of how to see this man, and how, of course, to see ourselves mirrored in that person. A good man, a tzaddik, a righteous person, Did he do everything possible to turn the world around, or was he silent? And then speech becomes so important in the next famous story in our Torah reading, the Tower of Babel. In the Tower of Babel story, Torah explains how once upon a time all of us spoke the same words, the same few words, dvarim achadim, safa achat udvarim achadim. One language, just a few words. But that was a situation that could not last. And God disperses all of the peoples who are building this tower up to heaven, and each group has its own language from then on. And then the problem is this a gift or is this a punishment? Is language rich for its diversity, or are we torn apart because we don't share the same language? And this problem is ours to live out. There is no one solution. On page 88 in our Siddur, we have a psalm that David composed after he was able to escape from the king Avimelech by talking nonsense, so that the king was convinced that he had lost his mind and that he was not dangerous anymore. And he kicked him out. Vayigarsheu vayelech. And he let him escape. And then David recovers his power of speech. After all, he was the great poet who wrote psalms of great beauty and depth. And he takes every letter of the Hebrew alphabet and he writes a verse to praise God. Avarchat Adonai b'chol eit tamid tilato b'fi. I will bless the Eternal at every moment. Continuously, God's praises will be in my mouth. When we get down to the middle of the psalm, we say, L'chu vanim shimuli, yirat Adonai alamedchem. Come children, listen to me, and I will teach you what it means to revere the Eternal. Mi ha'ish shechafetz chayim. Who is the person who desires life? And of course, who is the person who does not desire life? If all of us desire life, ohev yamim lirot tov, loving the days and hoping to see goodness, what should we do to be able to attain that? Nitzor lishoncha meira usvatecha midaber mirma sur meira va'asei tov bakesh shalom v'rodfeu. Guard your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking lies. The gift of language that you have been given, the gift of speech, treasure it. Use it for the gift that it is. Shun evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. Mi ha'ish echafetz chayim ohev yamim lirotov. Mi ha'ish echafetz chayim ohev yamim lirotov. Nitzor lishon chameira usvatecha midaber mirma sur meira v'asei tov bakesh shalom v'rodfehu.
יצור לשונך מירה ושפתיך מדבר מרמה סור מירה ועשיתו בקש שלום ברודפהו.
Noah sits in the ark that he built with his family and with all of the creatures that he gathered to save. And the Torah never tells us a word of what he spoke. He sits waiting to be saved. Hinei ein Adonai el yireyav la'amliachalim lechazdo. Page 93, the last 5 lines of the psalm. The eye of the Eternal watches over those who revere him, over those who wait in hope for God's loving kindness, to save them from death, to sustain their lives in famine. Longingly, we hope in the Eternal. God is our help and our shield. In God, our hearts rejoice, and in God's holy name, we keep on trusting. So may we enjoy your love eternal, for we have placed our hope in you. Nafshenu, nafshenu, chita l'Adonai, ezreinu, maginenu. Nafshenu, nafshenu, chita l'Adonai, ezreinu, maginenu. Ki vo yismach li yibeinu, ki v'shem kodsho vatachnu. Ki vo yismach li yibeinu, ki v'shem kodsho vatachnu. Yalai la 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 yalai la 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 ay la 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 ay la 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 yalai la 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 yalai la 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 ay la 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 I literally lie, I literally lie, I literally lie, I literally lie, I lie, I literally 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 lie. Nafshenu, nafshenu, chita l'Adonai, ezreinu, maginenu. Nafshenu, nafshenu, chita l'Adonai, ezreinu, maginenu. Ki vo yismach li yibeinu, ki v'shem kodsho vatachnu. Ki vo yismach li yibeinu, ki v'shem kodsho vatachnu. Hey, la 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 la, ay la 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 la, ay la 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 la, ay la 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 la, ay la 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 la, ay 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 la la, ay ay li lie, I literally lie, I literally lie, I literally lie, I literally lie. Nafshenu, nafshenu, chita l'Adonai, ezreinu, maginenu. Nafshenu, nafshenu, chita l'Adonai, ezreinu, maginenu. Ki vo yismach li yibeinu,
כי בשם קודשו בטחנו, כי בו ישמח ליבנו, כי בשם קודשו בטחנו. היר לי 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 לי, אי לי 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 לי, אי לי 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 לי, אי לי 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 לי, לי 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 לי, אי לי 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 לי, אלי לי לי, אי לי 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 לי, oh, I li 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 li, 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 I li 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 li. Yehi chazdecha Adonai aleinu, kasher yichalnu lach. Yehi chazdecha Adonai aleinu, kasher yichalnu lach.
As we keep waiting and waiting and hoping for you, so in the same measure and more, may your love wash over us. May your help arrive for us. Page 94. Hayom Yom Shabbat Kodesh Shebo Hayu Havim Omrim Beveit HaMikdash. This is the holy day of Shabbat. The Levites in the temple of old would sing this psalm of the Sabbath day.
Tov lehodot l'Adonai, Tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimecha elyon, Tov lehodot l'Adonai, Tov lehodot l'Adonai, Tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimecha elyon, Tov lehodot l'Adonai.
On page 323, we find one of these mirot, one of the Shabbat songs traditionally sung at the Shabbat table that celebrates Shabbat and specifically mentions that in our tradition, the dove that was sent out by Noah in order to scout out the situation. Was the flood over? Were the waters subsiding? Would it be possible soon to go back out into the world and start again? Yona matz'ava manoach. It is on Shabbat that the dove found rest. Shabbat, day of rest, so unforgettable, is like a sweet sense memory lingering still. On this day, a dry resting place, Noah's dove found. So too, our weary people will know rest profound. Those who cling to our heritage revere this day. Young and old alike strive to observe it the way God did command us on 2 carved tablets of stone at Sinai, where our people became God's alone. Keep and remember Shabbat and all of its ways. The people shall recall as they wander like strays, but no evil shall befall them, as God did swear after the flood to Noah, whose life God did spare. יום שבתון לשכוח, זכרו כריח הניחוח. יונה מצבו מנוח, ושם ינוח יגיע כוח. היום נכבד לבני אמונים זהירים, לשומרו אבות ובנים. חקוק בשני לוחות אבנים, מאירו והונים וימיץ כוח. יונה מצבו מנוח, שם ינוח יגיע כוח. יונה מצבו מנוח, ושם ינוחו יגיע כוח. ובאו כולם בעברית יחד, נעשה ונשמע, אמרו כאחד. ופתחו וענו אדוני אחד, ברוך הנותן ליעב כוח. דיבר בקודשו בהר המור, יום השביעי זכור ושמור. בכל פיקודיו יחד לגמור, חזק מותניים ואמץ כוח. יונה מצבו מנוח, שם ינוח יגיע כוח. יונה מצבו מנוח, ושם ינוחו יגיע כוח. העם אשר נקט צאנתה, יזכור לפוקדו ברית ושבועה, לבל יעבור בם מקרה רע. כאשר נשבעת על מי נוח, יונה מצבו מנוח, שם ינוחו יגיע כוח. יונה מצבו מנוח, ושם ינוחו יגיע כוח. The Yonah, the dove, found rest on the Shabbat day, and so shall we. Noah comes out of the ark, and God gives to Noah and to all humankind the first laws of Torah, of instruction, of pointing the way of how to live. That gift is a gift of love that we celebrate every day. On page 111, HAFTARAH, you have loved us such a great love, and you have taught our ancestors, and they have passed on to us Chukei Chayim, laws for living. HAFTARAH Adonai Eloheinu, Chemla gedola v'teira, chamalta aleinu. Ba'avinu malkeinu, ba'avur avoteinu, shebatchu v'cha, Avinu malkeinu. ותלמדם חוקי חיים, כן תכוננו תלמדנו, אבינו האב הרחמן, המרחם מרחם עלינו, ותן בליבנו להבין,
להבין ולהשכיל לשמוע, ללמוד וללמד, לשמור ולעשות, ולקיים את כל דברי תלמוד תורתך באהבה.
Page 112, the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Take a moment to silently offer our own prayers. What are we concerned about? What are we hoping for? What do we wish for? Take these moments of no speech, but of just the silent speech of the heart to reach out to our Creator. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. הוא יעשה שלום, הוא יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, הוא יעשה שלום, הוא יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. The Torah portion of Noach is very rich in the story, of course, of Noach himself, and as I mentioned also the following story of the Tower of Babel. The very end of the story of Noah, Noah leaves the ark. Everyone goes back out into the world itself. And God makes a covenant with all of humankind, never to destroy the world again. Genesis chapter 8, verse 22. Od kol yemei haaretz, zera vekatzir, vekor vachom, v'kayitz v'choref, v'yom v'layla lo yishpotu. So long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease. And then God gives humanity laws of life, as I mentioned before. And then God says, and here is a sign that this covenant that I am striking with you, I will watch over the world, but you need to watch over your own behavior, each other, and the world. The sign for that covenant is the rainbow. So if we look on page 51 in our Eitz Chaim Chumash, chapter 9, verses 12 through 17, we find the following. Vayomer Elohim, Zotot habrit asher ani notein, beini uveinechem, uvein kol nefesh chaya asher itchem, lidorot olam, et kashti natati be'anan, v'yayta leot brit, beini uvein haaretz, v'haya bi'anani anan al haaretz, v'nirata hakeshet be'anan, v'zacharti et briti, asher beini u'beinechem, u'bein kol nefesh chaya v'chol basar, v'lo yiyeh od hamayim lemapul, l'shachet kol basar, v'yayta hakeshet be'anan, u'ri'itiha, l'skor brit olam, bein Elohim, u'bein kol nefesh chaya, chol basar asher al haaretz. Vayomer Elohim el Noach, zot ot habrit asher hakimoti beini, u'bein kol basar asher al haaretz. The Almighty said, "This is the sign that I set for the covenant between me and you, and every creature with you for all ages to come. I have set my rainbow in the clouds, and it shall serve as a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. When I bring clouds over the earth, and the bow appears in the clouds, I will remember my covenant between me and you and every living creature among all flesh, so that the waters shall never again become a flood to destroy all flesh. When the bow is in the clouds, I will see it, and remember the everlasting covenant between God and all living creatures, all flesh that is on earth. That, the Almighty said to Noah, that shall be the sign of the covenant that I have established between me and all flesh that is on earth." So this story tells us that the amazing phenomenon of the rainbow is a remembrance, a sign of a covenant between the Almighty Creator of the world and us, and the world itself. The delight that we take in seeing this magical phenomenon, a rainbow of colors that mysteriously hovers in the air, that sense of wonder that we have, is meant to remind us that the world can be a place of wonder, or it can be a place of fear and suffering and horror. It is up to us. Short poem by Walter de la Mare, The Rainbow. I saw the lovely arch of rainbows span the sky. the gold sun burning as the rain swept by. In bright ringed solitude, the showering foliage shone. One lovely moment, and the bow was gone. This sign of the covenant, it's so fleeting. Try to catch a rainbow. Try to touch a rainbow. And yet, just that one moment of magic is meant to be the sign. And the fact that it can disappear is meant to be the sign. The fact that it can just dissipate and no longer be there from one second to the next is a reminder of how fragile, how beautiful, and yet how vulnerable this world is. We need to keep our end of the covenant. We need to honor that covenant and appreciate the beauty of the world, the magic of the world, and its fragility. We offer prayers for those who are ill. After the first stanza, I'll pause. We can think about all those who we are praying for, and then I'll conclude with the second stanza. Mi shebeirach avoteinu mikor habracha leimoteinu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi shebeirach imoteinu mekor habracha lavoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. For a final psalm, turn to page 153. This is a psalm that is recited Shabbat in the evening and Shabbat at the Torah service. Psalm 29. Mizmor leDavid havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim havu l'Adonai kavod ba'oz havu l'Adonai kevod shemo ishtachavu l'Adonai behadrat kodesh kol Adonai al hamayim el hakavod hirim Adonai al mayim rabim kol Adonai ba'koach kol Adonai behadar kol Adonai shover arazim vayishaber Adonai et arzei halvanon Vayakideim kemo Lebanon vesirion kemo ven reimim
Kol Adonai chotzev lahavot eish, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yecholel hayalot, Vayechesov ye'arot, Uveichalo kulo omer kavod. Adonai lamabul yashav, Vayeshev Adonai melech leolam, Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yevarech et amo b'shalom. The voice of the Eternal splits rocks with lightning. The voice of the Eternal stirs the wilderness. The voice of the Eternal strips the forests bare, while in God's sanctuary all chant glory, glory to the Eternal, who has sat enthroned at the flood. The Eternal will sit enthroned forever. May God bestow strength upon God's people and bless God's people with peace. Extend our condolences this week to Debbie Zucker on the loss of her father, Zichrono Livracha. And we now wish that we had a minyan, a community of flesh and blood, to be able to offer solace, comfort, and consolation to each other and support as we say the words of the mourner's Kaddish, Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shmei Rabbah. V'yalma divrach yirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon, v'yomechon, v'chayei, v'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv, v'yimru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach li'olam u'lalmei maya. Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnasei. V'yitadar, v'yitalev, v'yitalal, Shmei dekudisha brichu. Ye'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran v'yalma, v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'bromav, u'ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael, v'yal kol yoshvei tevel, v'yimru amen. Please accept our prayers and our intentions, and for the sake of your great name, send healing and salvation to the world. Mi ha'ish echafetz chayim ohev yamim eviroto. Sur meirav aseitov, bakesh shalom verotvehu. Nitzor lishon chameirav, usfatecha, vidaber mirmav. Sur meirav